One Hey, give me 1 second here. All right. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. I know there's a few people still logging in, but I'm very conscious of everyone's time. And thank you so much for joining in on this call. It's such an exciting time. I mean, the new year right now, I mean, we have only the best realtors that I know are invited on this call. So, uh, just congratulations to that. Congratulate. Only the best of the best comes and to learn about everything that we got going on. It's nice to see we got our man Armando on the call. How you doing?
How you
Shelly.
doing?
Yes, yes. We got a few other realtors. They're gonna be joining us soon. And Jason, how you doing, Jason? We are hyped up, ready to go. And let me tell you, I've got some great things in store. I know you guys are anxious. You're probably like, what she have, right? In store for us. But I have some few things to update you on. And then kind of, I would love to hear some of your feedback. We're going to have a couple of our individuals who are been helping along this journey to also to get started and just, to give you guys a little background on everything that, is going on with the new innovation. So, just to kind of like start it off a little bit, um, for me, being a real estate investor, this was like a really new lane for me, for those who know me, right? But I've always been in real estate, also, in tech. Again, for those joining in on the call, my name is Nakai Lewis, founder at Quuirk and also the American Dreamer. So, for those who know me, I'm part of the American Dreamer side. So, I wanted to kind of like start this journey in a different way and also utilizing all the tools, the resources, so that, I can be able to blend the best of the best and give you guys like some really amazing tools to like take us in the future. Because we're here, 2026 is primed and ready. And I'm more excited about this project. And let me tell you, I can't wait to share it with you guys. So, yeah, let me get my screen going here, and then I'm going to dive right in. But before I dive into it, I just wanted to also, share with you, as a homeowner, and especially for you guys who are realtors, lenders on this call, and are going to be listening to this in the future. As a homeowner, we are so, let's say, clueless homeowner, when it comes to things like repairs, when it comes to, everything happening after, you guys get very excited. You guys hand us the key and you're like, here you go. Right. So, for us, at the end of the day, we're like, okay, wow, now we have this big asset, right? We have hundreds of $1,000s worth of an asset. Like, what do we do next? And for me, especially, starting as an investor and as a homeowner, for those who know me, and I'm not a realtor, I really realized that, I really didn't understand what I was getting. I signed the dotted line, I took the loan, but I didn't really quite understand. So sometimes when we're trying to do that, especially, and then the first person, when things go wrong, guess who I'm calling? I'm calling my realtor. All right. And you guys know that when anything goes wrong in the beginning, you are usually the first person who's going to get that call, right? Oh my God, something's wrong with the water or the roof, or there's a leak, or the neighbor, because you are part of our first transaction, and people don't realize how important realtors are into giving us home ownership, into extending everything that you do, and the many things that you do in terms of being the person solving the issues and making sure the deal goes right. So this night, I wanted to first, put this together for you, right? Not only to show my appreciation, but to also give you guys some technology to kind of empower you for 2026 and to also empower your teams, right? And how this is going to help your business not only develop, but at the same time, cover some of those holes. Some of you may have these holes and things that you're going to need. And this is going to be an amazing thing for you to do so. So I'm going to jump right in and share with you a little bit about Quirk. Okay. And then I'm going to go through a few things. And then after that, feel free. We can definitely have some questions after that. So I'm going to introduce to you the newest product, which is basically called Quirk. It's going to be a smart way to protect the home, supporting your clients, and of course, creating additional income. Okay. And why this conversation matters because number one, buyers, they're very cautious, right? We are wanting to know what's going on with, each everything dealing with the seller disclosure or what kind of repairs were done or what wasn't done. There's always things happening when it comes to that. And it's like, well, do the realtor not tell us these things? That's always in the back of our mind, but you may not think that, but we're thinking that, right? Um, a lot of the times when we're getting that inspection, it really creates fear, right? It's like, oh my God, they're going to inspect the house. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, is there going to be something that I'm not going to be able to handle later, as an owner? Or even as a on the seller side, right? The seller is like, hey, this is the price I want, right? So I don't want to back down on price, but then it's like, okay, well, there's just repairs that need to be done, and there's things that need to be that wasn't disclosed. You guys are the ones to kind of facilitate that. And a lot of times, deals fall apart because of uncertainty. It's not because they don't want the house under value, it's just because they're uncertain, right? So the goal is to kind of help this part of it be more clearer, right? So there's a hidden gap really in every transaction, okay? First of all, the inspections, okay, show the problems. But okay, so you told me all the problems about the house. Great, right? But then, okay, what happens next? Even if I do accept it or they do happen to fix it, right? After that, it's my decision. It's every my responsibility, right? So at the end of the day, there's no centralized property history. What happens if even though you fixed that one, let's say, leak, but there was actually a leak that was fixed maybe 2 years ago, but it was, some little repair guy. You don't really have the receipt, but it was done, right? And then what about, when it comes to verified repair documentation? What do I mean by verified? Meaning a licensed person was able to conduct the actual documentation and actually do the repair. So we want to make sure, especially that after closing. So a lot of times, yes, we're handing those keys, we're super excited, but then what about the continuity after closing, right? How does that even work? Okay, so what I mean by continuity, so of course, after closing, do we have any way to keep up with that client and making sure, well, hey, okay, well, all your needs are being met. And then, there is a resource to help them when it comes to these things, right? And then secondly, there's no system for the future home ownership. So all the problems, all the history, yes, they may get it kind of written down based on whatever the seller is kind of disclosing. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have a system that's in place that's going to be able to provide this, right, for future ownership. Okay, so what is Quuirk? So Quuirk is and has created what we call a property care record. So the property care record and also a project management platform. What does that allow? So that pretty much we are documenting the property condition, the repairs and improvements, contractor work proof, and personal property. Everything all in one transferable record. What do I mean? So we are not an inspector, we're not inspecting, we're just disclosing exactly what is in the house. For example, okay, let's say we have quartz countertops, right? And we bought it, at Sam's Improvement, and it was installed by X contractor, right? And it was installed on this date. So let's say later on, my child, kind of like messes up the quartz countertop. Maybe I need to get it fixed or repaired. At least I know where to go back, right? Also, when it comes to repairs and improvements, if I'm doing renovations, I want to make sure that with these renovations, that everything is documented in case there's any issues in the future. What do I mean by issues? So, for example, we did a renovation. I had brand new cabinets installed into my house. However, guess what? They didn't have any knobs. Okay. So imagine you got these brand new cabinets, no knob. That looks great. But what if I want to add knobs later? So no, and what if there's something missing, like example, a shelf. So for example, I close on a transaction. I wasn't able to pretty much because the seller already got their money, they left. So I didn't have an opportunity to really know exactly, okay, well, where did these cabinets come from? And maybe they can help and assist me with probably any missing items that I might have missed because I was so excited to get the property and I was rushing through it, right? And then at the end of the day, we have the contractor work and then the proof, right? What was the contractor work and proof? Meaning, so if this person, let's say, fixed the roof, when did they fix the roof? What type of material was used? Was this a continued material of exactly what we have from the past? Did they change the material? It's all verified. And then lastly, we have the personal property side. So what we're talking about in personal property, meaning not only the contents about the house, but also the contents in the house. A lot of us have a lot of different valuables, different things from expensive furniture to particular things. And we'll get a little bit into why that personal property part is super important. Okay, so what is the property care record? Again, it's the living record of the home that includes the interior and the exterior. It's going to detail the system. So we're talking from the roof to the HVAC to the plumbing to the electric, right? What type of HVAC system? A lot of our times, it's kind of said, well, okay, well, this needs to be repaired, that needs to be repaired. Okay, well, what was it? What do we have? Where is the warranty? All that information can be stored together with the home, the repairs, the photos, and again, working with verified contractors, which is super important. And as a realtor, you want to be able to, yes, you may have a guy that can get things done, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure, and that's something that Quuirk does, is that we verify the contractor and making sure that they have their licenses and they're registered and they're just not doing this out of their basement, because later on, when it comes to insurance and different claims, it's really super, super critical and important, right? So that's part of that part. And then, of course, realtors, you guys love this. And so far, I'm working with a few realtors that are actually on this call. And a lot of realtors, they love this. You know why? Because you are able to provide more confident buyers, right? You have fewer inspection surprises because we already had the report to begin with. So it's already the beginning, correct? So, like with the seller, we already went through that. We have the full report. Now we can say, okay, this property comes with an enhanced property care record. This is going to be more detailed. So that when they're actually putting their offer in, they already know, well, hey, this home has been worked on. The roof's been worked on. We've got new floors. We've got, brand new HVAC system. This is the exact system. This is what we used, right? So then, after closing is less drama because we actually disclose all the things that is usually falling through the cracks. Right. And of course, new income. It's definitely going to be able to help to provide a new income stream during slow markets. So, what are the flexible payment options that we have? So, when it comes to flexible payment options, we have two, right? Which is the listing, or on the closing side, which is the seller paid. So, the seller can pay the listing, right? It'll be included in the listing. It's going to add value without reduced price. And then at the end of the day, this transfers to the buyer at closing. So you get to say, hey, this house comes with a seller paid listing incentive. It's already paid for the next 12 months. Here's all the records. You can go and have a look at it. The seller is actually, willing to do that because they were so incentivized. They really wanted you to get the best, detailed information about this house so that you can take care of the home moving future. Right. And then secondly, we have the option two, which is the buyer paid at closing. So for example, you have a buyer, it's like, you know what, I don't mind paying for this, or I'll pay for it. Of course, if they can pay for it upfront, we would like them to do so. But if not, we can make this part of the transaction, put it on the HUD statement, right? And now the buyer, as long as the seller cooperates to provide the details, we will go in there as a property care specialist and go ahead and detail everything for the buyer and get all the information, right? So, and we can also help the seller with the disclosure form. So if they need to, go ahead and figure out those questions, they don't really know too much about repairs and these things and receipts, we can walk them through and just pretty much get all the details. So we have that ready to go with the pictures. Okay. So, and then after, then the buyer will get the full property care record along with exactly everything detailed about the home. So how does this help, deals when it closes? It's definitely going to help less uncertainty, after inspection, because it's like, okay, well, I kind of knew this was already fixed, that was already fixed, right? This is exactly what's actually in the home. We're not saying what needs to be fixed, what needs to be repaired. It's just exactly what is in the home, which is super detailed: who, what, when, where, and how. That's pretty much what the record gives. Okay. And then, this also helps to protect the price. So if they're like, okay, why am I paying this much money? Is because I have quartz countertops. It's because, I spent extra money, fixing the ceiling and I did X, right? This is why it is. And here's all the proof that you have, and you're willing to give them this documentation, right? So it's clear documentation, it builds trust, and it's usually regularly at ease, right? So you get to control the narrative because they feel, okay, well, wow, this realtor actually went through to make sure that I got all this extra detailed information that is usually never disclosed in that type of format. All right. And then why does this all matter? So it really matters when it comes to claims and estates, and of course, for real estate, right? So let's say, for insurance, clear records for your heirs, anything dealing in this space, peace of mind, because you need all this documentation. And we'll get into a little bit about why you need this documentation, but it literally helps, especially, when passing an estate on. I have the full of who, what, when, or how of the house. This helps to prepare our elderly community as they're aging. This helps to provide, more detailed information. So as people are working on the house, it's a record that's basically carried from person to person, okay, and from new buyer to new buyer. So one thing that usually happens when it comes to information in the home, right, is that new homes, they lose data. Guess what? The contractor's busy building the house, and you've seen this. They do sloppy work. It looks amazing. And as soon as it's built, it's brand new. They're like, okay, here you go. And that's pretty much it, right? However, a lot of the upgrade details aren't detailed, right? We don't get a lot of the warranty information, right? And we're not asking for all this information. The smart home systems, what type of systems, we want it to like be properly documented. Okay. And then for first homeowner improvements, if one homeowner is making improvements and then the second one made improvements, we want to make sure that all those improvements are basically in one record. Okay. And of course, when it comes to older homes, there's been decades of, I would say, undocumented repairs when we have someone who's not licensed doing repairs in a home. They've been doing all this work on the home, but no one taught them how to document it so that if there was a claim, they would get paid, right? If they ever had a fire or a loss, they would get paid. There's no photos of the past work. It's hard to, differentiate when was the actually proof of loss. So when it comes to the older homes, a lot of these older homes and systems were, replaced without records. Okay, well, yeah, I did it, but I don't have anything of it, right? So we want to make sure that some of these homes also have proof, right? And ownership changes. And of course, it breaks the continuity. And Quirk's really goal is to make sure we're preserving the home's memory. Okay. And when it comes to insurance claims, right? So insurance claims, insurance doesn't pay based on memory. They're not going to be like, okay, well, you did that. No, they're going to want documentation. So records matter. Okay, comprehensive pre-documentation is basically matters. Cataloging the contents, the condition before like the event occurs, having visual, chronicle, logical proof. That means exact time stamps, when, who, what, when, where, what everything was done. This is literally helps to streamline the claims process. It helps to minimize disputes. And then it helps you to get, faster payouts because now we know, okay, great. This is exactly when it was done, how it was done, who did it, right? And guess what? I did fix my roof and now there's a leak. Right. So I had that situation where I bought a house. It was great. A couple months later, I got a roof leak. And guess what? It wasn't actually covered because at closing, I didn't actually, if they did, that was an ongoing problem they've been fixing over the years and they never documented it. So when they finally fixed it and just gave it to me, I didn't even know when it was fixed. Now it's just basically like, well, you know what? In the report, it said there was roof tear. So guess what? You're not going to get paid because we don't have any proof. So that's why it's super important for that. Okay. So what is Quirk and how perfect this for? Like, so basically when it comes to you as a listing agent, as the buyer agent, this is great for luxury properties, older homes, investors, and of course, repeat buyers, right? So we want to be able to, as a realtor, you guys can be able to offer this property care as a value add, differentiate your listing, and also, of course, earn referral income, right? We love referral income. And as things are moving the way the economy is, you're going to be able to utilize different ways that you can make money within the industry at the same time, in between different listings, right? And then, of course, we have something basically helping you to become certified. So basically, as a property care realtor, you can be a property care certified realtor, get that distinction, and then be able to articulate everything that I'm talking about when it comes to documentation and making sure that as the client is growing with the home, they understand how to take care of the home. They understand the value of the home when it comes to documentation, when it comes to itemization, when it comes to insurance claims. A lot of times, homeowners, they're not aware about these things. They don't even know that they need to have these things already documented. No one told them. Right. So we're going to go ahead and close that loop and gap and make sure that that is actually happening. Okay. And then when it comes to, your home, creating what we call the infrastructure to home ownership, right? So we're preserving the memory, we're documenting it, we're working with verified contractors. So you get an opportunity to recommend contractors if you don't have it, right? So now you have that. And especially your new agents who probably don't have as many contacts, this allows them to make sure they're getting things done. After the home is now purchased and you need to take care of certain things, now you have a full arsenal of people that can be able to help you to continue that and document it so that later when you're ready to sell the home, we got everything organized for you as the realtor. Okay. So, what happens next? And we're gonna stop here and get a couple questions, get a little feedback. But before I do that, I wanted an opportunity to give you a little bit about, and I'm gonna allow Mike to say something, right, about pretty much working with Quuirk. We have a few other people that are also on the call so that you could understand how this kind of like intertwines in a full conversation. And then, of course, if you have questions, I would love to hear your questions after that. Yes. So,
Well, thank you.
Mike Robbins, I wanted to introduce you.
Thank you so much, Nakai. Yeah, I have a lot. Quirk has already been a very valuable service, and I'm going to only focus on the part of it that I think really relates to the realtors and the property care report because I really don't know that this is a brand new concept that she's launched. It hasn't happened this way. It's a whole ecosystem. So um, what I do is I'm a property claims person. So I'm licensed, bonded, and insured to help property owners against the insurance company to maximize their claim value. So the things that she's talking about as it relates to the property care report, there's two sides to it. There's the proactive side of it, and then there's the reactive side of it. Okay, so this is really a concierge premium type of service for a new buyer. So when you're introducing this as a realtor to a buyer or even a seller, and you can put that Quirk logo on there, you're giving them a premium situation. First things first, is she talked a little bit about DIYers and handyman and the uncle who does repairs. I think we've all come across, and we may all even have those in the family. From the perspective of claims, it becomes challenging because if you do have an issue and it connects to water damage or fire damage or smoke damage or damage with the roof, the insurance company is going to ask for a qualified, licensed, bonded, and insured contractor to document the level and intricacies of that issue. Without that, there will be opportunities for dispute because it's not documented properly to her earlier point. So that as a when you're walking into the buying or the selling process, you're bringing a premium piece to that part of the service. Secondarily, by having the contents added in the front end, meaning your personal items, artwork, jewelry, um, antiques, those types of things, by having those things cataloged, if there happens to be an event early on, for example, there's fire or smoke, very common, or even a water damage or sewer backup. Well, the thing is that those items, and some women have lots of clothes, so people have lots of personal items. Those items have value inside your policy. So, for example, right now I have a fire victim in Newark, and just the contents alone outside of the home itself is $182,000 that we're getting for this homeowner because we had to document it. Now they had to do it reactively, But so they're losing probably 50, $60,000 on the reactive side. But if they purchased a property care report, documented that piece, they would be able to recover probably another 50 or $60,000 in their pocket. All right. Also, she talked a little bit about upgrades. And again, in addition to being a public insurance adjuster, I'm also a licensed insurance agent. So one of the things that many people aren't aware of is when you buy a policy, oftentimes there's what they call extended replacement costs, meaning if the value of the value of the damage exceeds the cost of the home, you can extend that by 25% essentially. And what happens is that if you do upgrades on the property, meaning like you had a laminate or you had a basic countertop and you upgraded to granite or floors or bathroom, and it increases the value by more than 5%. Now that is supposed to be by law reported to the insurance company or by policy reported to the insurance company. Otherwise, you could lose that additional 25%. So by having all of these areas uh, cataloged and managed along the way, you have this documentation, you have a idea of the workmanship, so that if and when you do have issues, if and when you need to report, you've already been proactive in that process. Additionally, if there is workmanship that has been done or needs to be done along the way, to her point, you know the kind and quality of that material. So maybe there's a custom ceiling, maybe there's custom floors, maybe there's custom siding that was added on. If you don't have those documented and upon a loss or upon damage, and you need to replace those items, now you're kind of scratching your head or trying to figure out where you're going to get those items, how you're going to replace it in the way that will not make it look like a patch job. And that those types of things, when you're talking about elevated buyers, elevated listings, are going to add a particular premium to your service and a strength to the sale process. So I highly recommend that, realtors really add this in early as possible in the sales process, because it's going to differentiate you from your other colleagues, because they're not bringing this level of service on the front end and throughout the buying and servicing process. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that so eloquently. So you're hearing this from, the side of the on the insurance side. So this intersects so much in so many levels when it comes to the home, right? Now we also, I'm not sure if Jason, if you have a moment, if you want to say two words, how you've utilized Quirk in being able to, as a realtor, and
Mhm.
I just wanted you to share real quick.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really powerful resource. And as we are, because it's a new product, it's almost an invention. Just as you were describing it earlier today, and as we've been talking about this for roughly over a little bit over a month now, my lights came on with when we started talking about how do I enhance our property profile whenever we're getting ready to put a listing together. And so, I initially opted to let's bring the Quuirk team in and let's figure this out. Let's allow Quuirk to manage and govern the contractors. I was actually very impressed as we were on site, that you and representatives of Quuirk were there with the contractors saying, "Hey, did you count the doors? Hey, did you count the windows? Did you count and take an inventory of what fixtures that we might need or whatever the case is?" So making sure that everything was completely detailed. I was almost most impressed with that, because I felt as if whenever an estimate from the contractors on the Quuirk team were going to give an estimate, I'm very confident that the estimate is going to be thorough. And so, but what makes me feel great, in the property care report is that the buyer uh, will get a document, or I guess they'll be given access to a platform that will let them know everything in this property. I mean, the name brands of all the appliances, maybe the cabinets, contact information for who they would have to call in the event that not maybe they don't need cabinets, maybe they just want a new cabinet door and it was custom cabinetry. Who do I call for that? Where do I, how do I get this? I don't know. I thought it was really powerful. And so far, it seems like something that my sellers are going to definitely bite on. I'm looking forward to hearing how we work through the kinks of actually executing it and getting it to where they actually sign the dotted line because I love the payment options that you have. I'm interested in seeing the more sellers I pitch it to, like what are their resistance questions? Is there any resistance? Is it necessary? Might be a question that they ask. We do have the seller's disclosure, which what you are offering is the seller's disclosure on fleek. And I am and I we were speaking before about the possibility that we as realtors might actually be able to utilize your services to assist us with getting the seller's disclosure done. Like that might actually be how you get all the information by going line by line through the seller's disclosure. And in addition to just answering the questions, also collecting documents. I don't know. I think it's a great resource. Again, we've actually already been to a couple property sites and spoken to a couple property owners together. So I've been practicing my pitch, and I look forward to seeing how it proves to be greater for us as realtors.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jason. And you brought up an excellent point, especially when it comes to scopes and contractor scopes, right? And being able to utilize that as how should I say, for having a project manager to assist the homeowner. We also have our escrow part of it. So there's an escrow based part of the system that we will hold the payment until the work is done, verify the work is done, make the record, and then release the payment to the contractor. So it works on both sides. It makes sure that the contractor doesn't get stiff their money and the homeowner doesn't lose their money. Because I've had many stories of different homeowners losing funds, not having the contractor properly do the work that they paid for. And we want to be able to document this. And we want to be able to make sure that if the homeowner didn't sign off on it, that it's not completed properly, they won't be able to be released those funds, which is super critical, right? It's literally like having, a 203K type situation at your fingertips for a homeowner. And especially for women who are not familiar with repairs, don't know what they're being charged, and then being able for us to review the scope, make sure everything is detailed, exactly like you said. We can do repairs, we can do renovations, we can do, any type of contractor work that they need. We have the full teams to service New Jersey and PA at this time. If you ever know anyone who get in a fire or water or damage, we intertwine having public adjusters, making sure that the claim is going to be at the most maximum and helping the client with the documentation, which is super, super important, when it comes to that. So, from the audience per se, do you guys have any questions that or any just thoughts about this? I know this is brand new. I would love to hear your opinion.
I just wanted to interject one, because you brought up the contractors. We've actually used Quuirk on a number of customers, water leaks, um, several plumbing issues already in West Hampton, Jersey City, and other places. And one of the things that's very unique about, and I consider Quuirk as an ecosystem and a concierge service. So what you have to realize is that Quuirk operates almost as the voice of the customer. So what happens is that the customer has an issue, to her point, older women, older people generally speaking, we've seen, where they have trust issues. So Nakai has been able to speak through the customer's concerns to the contractor in a way that the contractor needs to communicate their information properly in terms of scoping of the damage and present it fairly. That information is presented to the customer for their approval in a way that presents the contractor in a very professional way and gives the homeowner, the property owner, a way to absorb that information without the pressure and misunderstanding that the contractors may have in that process. And until that agreement is made, the homeowner is not put in a position where they have to dole out so much money and wonder and hope that they're going to do the right thing. That in between that property management part, and I didn't want to get too deeply into the ecosystem because there's a lot that goes into this. We're really focused on the property care report right now. That ecosystem really creates a comfort level. And what I can say personally is that on the other side of the repairs being done, the contractor communication being completed, the escrow being held with that money, it has strengthened my reputation with my client because of how Quuirk managed a very vulnerable part of this process for them. So I would highly recommend, you know, realtors, contractors, and others look into using Quuirk for these various pieces. But first and foremost, have them get this property care report to bind themselves into the process.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Ia, you would like to join in?
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I love it. I've shared that with you many times before. I'd like to kind of talk about it from a contractor's point of view, which is that um most of the if the contract is time and material, a good portion of the time is spent trying to figure out what the last contractor did. And so this could be a viable tool so that the inherited project has some information already available for the oncoming contractor. And this is helpful because some contractors may not take a job because it's just too much to figure out what the past person did, when they did it, materials used, and what was the outcome of that repair, especially if it's a major repair. So anything that could be done on um on a contractor's perspective to eliminate time wasted figuring out stuff is going to be really, really helpful. And I think that's good for um the homeowners because anytime they can establish a relationship where a contractor feels like, yeah, when I go there, it's very organized, I'm in and out, I know what to do, there's information. I'm not just kind of left in the dark to figure it out on my own. And that's going to be helpful. That's going to be leverage for the homeowner as well. And that's important because, like you said, trust and relationships are very important when it comes to maintaining a home. Having a good relationship with your contractors is key. And I really think this application could really be a good conduit for building great relationships with contractors who are going to be in and out of your home over the duration of your ownership. And of course, being able to pass that on to the next homeowner is top notch. And it's definitely where we need to be going in terms of offering additional services that separate the experience of home ownership.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for interjecting on that. E is also going to be one of our project managers working in the Quirk team on the ground floor, helping all your buyers and sellers, making sure their projects are getting completed. So she's also part of the Quirk team as well. Hi, Shelly. How are you? What's your question? Join in. We can go ahead. Let me see. Hi, Shelly. Are you there? I saw she had her hands up. Okay. Whenever she's ready. Uh, so in addition, yeah, so Selena, what about you? Because you are a very important part here. I would love for you to get your feedback on it as well.
Hi, how are you all? I'm Sally. How's everything? Thanks for having me. I think
Yes.
it's going to be a phenomenal launch. So far, so good based off of what I hear. I love the fact that you already have good partners and realtors that are already pushing the product. This is actually my first time about hearing it, and I see a familiar face, Michael, on the call as well. So, hi, Michael. Good to see you. But I think it's great because I wanted to make a point that sellers, they already don't like completing the seller's property disclosure statement. And if for the ones that do complete it, they kind of shy away from the truth, right? So I really feel that this product is great for realtors and or sellers to offer as incentives with the listings, because it kind of like, not that it's insurance, but it's kind of like another security instrument, right? To say, hey, although I know the sellers filled this out, but now we have a backup company also vouching that they did their own visual personal inspections, and they can vouch for the information that goes hand in hand with the seller's disclosure. So I think it's great. Of course, when it comes to us listing agents, of course, the dollar amount is what comes down to it. Is it something that we're willing to invest in that listing, whether the seller wants to add it as an incentive or not? Because sometimes us realtors, we put out of pocket costs and we invest, just like videography, drone footage, and things of that nature. Even when it comes to staging, some agents, depending on the listing and the price point, it might be worth us investing in this system or program for our listings as well. So when it comes to listing agents like myself and others on the call, I think it narrows down to, what are their costs? Are there different costs going to be offers for the realtor versus the seller, and vice versa? So, I'm just curious as to what that model will look like, even if it's not available right now, but just something that maybe after the call you can email me and I can look into, in hopes that I can now incorporate this with my listing presentation as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Email
Absolutely.
everybody. I want it too. And, and yeah, I actually think that brings up a very valid point. And Kai, we actually spoke of this, before, the possibility that it could be a realtor fronted expense. And so that's something that, that I actually teetered with. We also talked about the idea that we could check and see whether something, it could be something that's added to the HUD. Can it be paid at closing? Because in the event that it can be paid at closing, I can tell you every listing I got getting it, whether it comes from my commission side or whether it comes from the seller side or buyer side. If it's getting paid on payday, then there's no reason for anybody, realtors included, to say no. If by chance this is a product, and if by chance the investment is $1,000, well, myself, I may have the $1,000, but another agent, and we all know in the economy, $1,000 is not easy to come by right now, even for realtors who are doing well. The truth is that if it can be put on the HUD or it can be paid at closing, that is a huge, huge, huge component that would almost guarantee that we realtors would do it no matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, Thomas, you want to interject on it?
Yes. Let me see. Where am I here? It's definitely. I think you mentioned that. I don't know if you in your presentation that if the potential buyer is purchasing a PCR, that you present the buyer at the closing with the completed PCR record.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an incentive that the buyer's agent can purchase and give it as a closing gift to the potential buyer.
Yes. Yes. Correct. Correct. It can be a closing gift. It can be added to the HUD. You guys are all correct. So even if they don't have the funds up front, right, it can be added as part of the buyer, as one of the buyer costs. Look how you guys sometimes include a warranty, right? You can also include this as a transferable record, and it can be paid later on the HUD at closing. We are open to that, as long as the buyer is willing to, and you guys have to disclose that, of course, in your listing, that that'll be paid at closing, and this will also help them in the long run. So being able to be a property care certified realtor is super important, because you want to be able to explain the product, and then the importance of having it, especially as a new owner.
Especially if I, as the realtor, even conduct the, remember, isn't that one of the options? I sell
Yes.
the potential buyer the PCR, but I'm the one that's actually conducting the PCR.
So you'll basically be, you can sell the product, and if you are a property care specialist, you'll have that option to actually conduct the full property care report and record because you'll be trained.
You
That's additional income. So there'll be additional income sources for you as a realtor, right? To actually do that and do the personal contents and do the full house if you're trained in that area.
so I'm
Absolutely.
not looking at the money. I'm looking at the trust factor
Mhm.
because the home buyer is already trusting me. So now he's trusting me by buying the PCR, and now I'm the one that's conducting the whole process.
There's their option too as well. Absolutely.
Is there no
Shelly, did you have
conflict
your
of
hand?
interest? I'm sorry. Ooh, I never follow the hand rule when it comes to
Oh no, it's
this
okay.
Zoom meeting stuff. I'm so
You
No
said a
sorry.
conflict
conflict
of
of
interest.
interest.
No,
Yes, I just wanted to know, will there be any conflict of interest with our licenses when it comes to something like this?
no,
Okay.
no,
No,
because
no
your
conflicts.
your
Go ahead, Tom.
PCR certified. You're certified to conduct the public care records.
So who trains us
Yes.
on that?
Yes.
Is that a
Yeah,
separate?
separate. Yes,
Got it.
exactly. It's
Okay.
separate.
Okay.
So
Okay.
number one is separate. That's a really good question. I like that question a lot. But the reason why it's not necessarily a conflict is because it's disclosed. In real estate, even if you sold homeowners insurance, even if you were a lender, the reality is that it's not a conflict where it's illegal for you to serve in all roles. It's illegal for you to serve in all roles if it's not disclosed. If you are the mortgage person and you are also the realtor, as long as the buyer knows that you're dipping on both sides and that you're being compensated on both sides, you're not breaking the law. So, in the event that this is presented where you're actually getting paid from Quuirk, on 1099, W-2, or however it is that you're getting paid, if the person knows that you're actually receiving compensation, whether it's 50 cents or $5 million for doing this particular service, this is my side hustle. I also, sell this powerful program you should take advantage of, then you will never run into an issue as long as it's disclosed.
Okay, well, that's cool. I mean, of course, my idea is to support your business, support your launch. I'm not looking to make money on it just yet. But if it's
Exactly.
something that can kind of like skyrocket, I'm like, hey, well, why not? Will you guys already, or will the company or corporation already have the mandated disclosure or waiver or hold harmless available for us realtors if we were to need it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We can be able to provide that for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was a great question. That was a great question.
Thanks.
I think Shelly's back.
Yeah, I had to switch devices. I apologize, you guys. First of all, thank you for a great presentation. Even though I hold other licenses, I'm sitting in this from the lender's seat. And I will tell you, all too often, we're having conversations over these disclosures and the property care being an issue. It's just often whether we have the joke of somebody's uncle's father or a legitimate issue where a seller knows of something that they just don't want to fix. I think the power in all of this, the way you have it transferable, the settings of being able to have it disclosed on the HUD. My main thing is when it's time for the real estate agents to start negotiating and putting the buyer's mind at ease, it's gonna be a deal changer. I fully support pre-sale inspections. It's something that in recent conversations where I was discussing, am I going to try to sell anything this year? It's been a major part of my planning where if a seller doesn't want to do inspections up front, I might not even want to work with them. So being able to present you so with in this packaging, I'm very excited for it. And I agree, once other real estate agents come to understand your value, I'm hoping other people will see what we already see because it is very frustrating to know there's something wrong with the home and have a seller look at you like you're the problem because you want to disclose what you know. When we know a thing is wrong, we're obligated in a way to protect the seller, but we also need to be honest. How do we do that? You are going to make the playing field a lot easier, in my opinion. And with me focusing on renovations and new construction, I just see so many ways to refer you to people and to infuse you into upcoming transactions and dialogues. So I'm very excited for what you've built, and I can't wait to learn more.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Shelly. I'm looking forward to working with you and your team for this new year. And, this is exactly what all of this is about, right? This is a new product, it's a new thing. There's going to be some education, there's going to be some little kinks, but that's why I've got the starting 12 realtors here, right? The best of the best, the ones who know. We've got South Jersey, we've got North Jersey, we got the best of the best here. Right. And you guys are going to be able to understand and see the vision as this grows. This goal is for this to be part of every transaction. I'll make sure that you guys go ahead and I will also email out. I'll email out the website. I'm just going to drop that here in the link. We're going to have our courses for the certified realtor starting next week, right? It'll just be basically a 2 hour opportunity to have these kind of conversations and work through this because, again, this is literally built to help you on many different avenues on the lender side, on the realtor side, on the insurance side. Never, ever, ever has there been a product that's going to be pretty much like this, right? That's going to be allowing you to have the comfort, have the trust, being able to confidently say, hey, this is what it is, right? And it's either, you're going to take it as it is because that's the fact, right? We're not going to be editing facts. We're pretty much going to acknowledge the fact, acknowledge the memory, acknowledge the documentation, and then provide that. For me, I want to make sure, and many of these things is because it's not about if there was repairs done. I just need to know when the repairs were done. I need to know how it was done and who did it and how much maybe you paid, right? Because I want to continue the care of the home. Maybe I don't want to be overcharged for my repairs in the future because I know, like, hey, I was charged this amount, right? So, it's just being able to have that comparable data. It's been so much data that we've had that has been undocumented for years. For me, think about this. You literally getting a Carfax for the home, okay? We have Carfaxes for our car. We're spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on our homes, and we don't even have that information. Okay. So, how can we now be able to? This product was carefully curated to kind of handle a lot of the pain points, especially on the 203K side, having the right contractors, being able to, yes, and exactly, trust is no longer built on a handshake. We need to show those receipts. Nobody wants to say, hey, yeah, you know what? This is what you said. No, we have the receipt. This is documented, and it kind of takes the pressure off of you. Hey, I did my work as a realtor. Like, this is what it is. You either, go ahead and review it. And if this works for you, perfect. Right? The goal for me is that I want to be able to have this at listings, right? And again, some of the homes, the smaller homes, it's going to pretty much there's different pricing structures, and then we'll be able to grow with the home. And my goal is that being able to promote this in a way. I'm going to have more launches. I'm going to have some home ownership stuff. I want to be able to go to your brokerage. So, let's acknowledge that. More realtors need to be understanding, having these conversations more and talk about this part because this part is super important. Yes. Hi, Selena. You had a question?
Yeah, so once this is launched, or if it's already launched, right? In your opinion, with working with realtors and professionals, how we put our listings coming soon? When should we be making the call to you guys if this is an incentive us as the listing agent would like to attach to our listing? Because, as a listing agent, sometimes it can take you 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to prep or get the listing, from the original walkthrough, to your recommendations to the seller. At what point just in your opinion should we be reaching out to an establishment like this to get those reports started?
That's a great question. So we want to be able to, if the seller again is cooperative and willing, because sometimes we have the uncooperative ones, you want to do it before you put the listing, or even if you already have existing listings, have the conversation. I'll educate you on how to have the conversation with them about adding it in so that you can say, hey, this property now comes with a enhanced property care record. And most buyers are going to be like, well, what is that? Because no one's ever heard of it. right?
Right.
So then, having that conversation before, having that conversation as soon as the listing, maybe you have a listing that has been on the market for a long time. And guess what? It might be on the market for a long time because they don't really know what's going on with the house. So why would they, want to put an offer and they don't want to go through the expense because they don't know what's the background of that home. So this will
Hmm.
give you as the realtor an edge. Here's the background of the home. Do you want to put in your offer? Kind of like in the beginning is where we'd like to have it. If they're
Hmm.
uncooperative for whatever reason, then the buyer, if you're representing buyers, we want to push that to the buyers and say, hey, you know, if we can, possibly you can have this at the end of closing. We were going to tell the buyer, it'll go on the buyer side of the cost. And then later, the seller, as long as the seller is willing to disclose information, we will go ahead and work with the seller, get the information, and then provide the buyer that record at the end of closing. And then they'll have their next 12 months of being able to utilize the product.
So is it an easier process, in your opinion, to work with the seller or work with the buyer? So let's say we have an uncooperative seller who just doesn't want to disclose, doesn't want to tell him he had the local crackhead do all his repairs in the basement. Just hypothetically speaking, we get those type of listings, right? Um, so if the seller's not cooperative, what is typically your onboarding process, and how long is that turnaround time if we have a cooperating seller that's on point and they have all their ducks on a roll? So if the seller does have all their ducks in a row and they have all the before and after photos, or they have invoices, receipts, or whatever documentation they would need to provide you, what is typically the onboarding turnaround time for you to make sure you have any and all information that you would need? And on the buyer side as well, just so if we didn't have a cooperative seller and we have a buyer who wants you to go in and do that to give them peace of mind when they do go to settlement, what is typically the turnaround time in your experience? Is it 2 weeks, 14 days, 30 days, in hopes to gather all the information, just to kind of have an idea, when it is
Say
time to
within,
pitch this?
yeah, I would say 2 weeks is safe, right? We may be
Okay.
able to get it done sooner than that, but 2 weeks is safe. And then as we grow, I'll be able to onboard. We have other project managers. We have Shakina. She's also here as a project manager, be able to do that. Ia, there's a few of us here. So as the demand grows, I'll be adding more. And then as the demand grows, realtors can also be able to sign up to be able to provide the service so we can do it faster, right?
Awesome.
Certain people who are older, they're not going to be tech savvy. They're not going to be able to just hop on a Zoom and go over information and send me the information. If I have a client
Mm.
that's great like that, not perfect. If not, then we have to go in person and kind of
Okay.
get this done.
Okay. And is it like an app where it's app friendly if we do have to go and do the inspections on behalf of the company? Is it where middle bedroom, window? Is
I'm
there
on
a
the
certain app?
process right now. It's just web based. So we have the
Okay.
website, web based, and again that's quuirk.com. I dropped the website link in the chat, and I am working on a capital raise to build us out fully functional, so I can manage infrastructure of 50 states and a million plus realtors. But so right now, we're just Jersey, some of PA for now. And as the infrastructure grows, then I'll be able to kind of like build. So you guys are literally at the ground floor of this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. So, like I said, this is not the last call, guys. The next action steps is to become a property care certified realtor. You can go ahead and go on the link on the website. There's a lot of information. The next scheduled time that we're going to be doing is on the 11th. So I have dates on 11th and the 12th. If you want to be able to offer this. For all the pricing, contact information, all of that great stuff is there. So again, you have an opportunity to be on the ground floor of something amazing. I'm just so excited. We're also going to do our official launch, like in-person event, which I'm planning now. So there's going to be some opportunity there. If you want me to come talk to your teams, jump on your calls, anything like that, I'm super, super willing, and being able to help this grow and build and educate. So I'm so excited for 2026 and partnering with all of you and building this out. And again, you can visit quuirk.com. That's pronounced Quirk. My name is Nakai Lewis, founder of Quuirk, and we're going to make sure that every moment counts and every house is documented moving forward. So we're bringing the confidence, the clarity, and continuity to your listings. So
Love it.
Thank you guys for an amazing call. You have my number. If you have any questions, contact me or see you later.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Pleasure seeing you all. See
Thank
you next
you
meeting.
so much.
Bye.
It was so
Thank you.
informational.
Guys.
Thank
Have
Thank
a
you
good
so
night, guys.
much. Good night.
Bye.
Hey.
Good night.